Thank you.
What was your role as Productivity South Africa at the Indaba?
Well, we're there as co-conveners, and we participated. We also made an input. We also formulated the concept around this, and also gave direction in terms of what ought to be looked at in relation to productivity and competitiveness of the sector itself.
Was there a need to have this type of Indaba around productivity?
It is. It's actually long overdue. If you think of it, our manufacturing sector has been declining over the past 20 years. So there was a need to look at it, because that's our only saving grace if we are to move forward as a country, to grow as an economy.
Broad strokes, what came out of that Indaba?
Well, first and foremost was the participation of SMMEs within the manufacturing sector. That's very key. The second one is basically the growth in terms of the sector, to make it more competitive and more productive, because we are competing with other sectors elsewhere in the world. We are now in the global village. And the third, which is also very key, was the issue of skills development and capacitating the participants in the sector.
Now, talking about SMEs, you must be elated when you heard the announcement of the new Small Business Development Ministry, or not?
I nearly danced. But that's a welcome move, because, as I said, there's an urgent need for a focus on SMMEs. Because we've had this problem that you find SMMEs being closed down within 2 years of opening, actually the majority of them. So you need a focus to basically ensure that they participate. And big business alone won't make it without the assistance of SMMEs within the supply chain or the value chain.
Why is SME so important, though, for the economy, for the growth of the economy?
Well, let's look at economies, for instance, that withstood the 2008 economic crisis. The one is Germany. And you'll see the strength of SMMEs, how the SMMEs assisted that economy to withstand that onslaught of the economic crisis. And in South Africa, we are no different, because we need more agile, more smaller, more responsive entities that will be able to produce goods and services cheaper and faster and at a better quality.
Now, you've called for a radical overhaul in terms of South Africa's labour relations. Why do we need an overhaul? And what's wrong with the current legislation?
I think the whole thing stems from the fact that there's little social capital within the labour relations. And labour relations, I mean management and employee relations. Now, we need an overhaul where we'll gather and mobilize more social capital, where there will be more trust, labor, management, trusting one another, and having a more, line of sight that is common, and they will be able to then look at, have more common goals than be at, at each other's throat and be adversarial towards each other. So we need a labor relations that promotes that kind of dialogue, ongoing, and that would allow the two to see the goals from the same end.
But what is the relationship currently between private and public sector in labour relations?
I think the issue with there's a distance between private and public, and I think we need a little bit of more collaboration. Closing the gap. Government and private sector have been operating from far apart from one another, and there needs to be a little bit of coming together so that they can be able to get this whole goodwill, if you want, within the economy going.
What kind of action should be taken to encourage growth in the manufacturing sector in the country?
I think the most important one is basically start improving your productivity. You've got to be faster, quicker, and cheaper around the world. You've got to improve your competitiveness. You've got to be able to produce those goods and put them there when they are wanted at the right time, at the right price. And that's what has to be put as a primary goal in the manufacturing sector.
Will that be maybe the case in terms of the new cabinet members coming on board in the new government for the next 5 years, you think?
I think there's no better time to think about it now, because there's NDP first and foremost, that plan, the National Development Plan, as well as the new cabinet. Which from where I'm sitting, I think they are more energetic. You've got new ministers and so forth and so on. But you must also not discount the input that ordinary citizens and business people as well as labor have to make. Once there is that buy-in, then we can all go forward with the necessary vigor that is required.
What is currently hampering and hamstringing the manufacturing sector, you think?
I think it's basically the lack of taking the basic drivers of competitiveness seriously and productivity seriously. Dealing with issues of, for instance, of efficiency, dealing with issues of utilization, dealing with issues of effectiveness. Those are the key issues, and also the relationship, and that is the key one. The relationship between the employer and the employee is very key.
The way forward now after the Indaba, because this was the inaugural one?
We have a declaration of intent, which is setting up the framework to say that this is going to be an annual thing, and we have to take what is declared in that declaration and make it a reality, start giving fruition to that.
And what are the first steps taking from that?
The first step is basically to knuckle down. For instance, start by dealing with issues of local procurement. How do we leverage on that? And deal with issues of enhancing the current value chains and also establishing new value chains within the manufacturing sector. These are the initial ones, but then you'll move forward and start even trying to promote engagement within the relevant stakeholders.
Africa Intertrade, is that maybe one of the things that you are looking at?
The markets are key. That's the most important one. Also making sure that we take advantage of the markets that are opening, the IPSA, the BRICS groups, etc. We should take advantage of that, because we've got the wherewithal in terms of capacity to be able to make that.
Mr. Mosai, thank you so much for joining us in studio.
Thank you so much.
That was Mr. Sello Mosai, Executive Manager, Productivity South Africa, joining us in studio.